Let's talk about something that can be incredibly confusing and damaging: emotional manipulation. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at what's called the manipulator's playbook. The goal here isn't just to understand the tactics, but to see how you can start recognizing them and protecting yourself. This quote from former FBI profiler Joe Navarro it really hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that dizzying, upside-down feeling of being blamed for the very pain someone else is causing you. And that feeling is where we need to start. I mean, really think about it. Have you ever walked away from a conversation just second-guessing everything? Your memory, your feelings, that nagging sense deep down that something is just off, but you can't quite explain what it is. And here's the absolute key, the thing you have to understand. That confusion, it isn't a byproduct. It's the goal. It is a calculated strategy meant to keep you off balance, to keep you questioning yourself, and ultimately, to make you easier to control. So, let's open up this playbook, because when we can actually see the plays, we can start to see the whole game for what it is, instead of just getting lost in the chaos. And wow, this playbook has a lot of options. A manipulator can use any of these, and more. But for this explainer, we're going to zero in on 3 of the most common and frankly, most powerful plays you're likely to see: gaslighting, triangulation, and projection. Okay, first up, gaslighting. It's a term you've probably heard a lot lately, but what does it really look like and what does it feel like when it's happening? Now, it's so important to get this right. This isn't just someone telling a lie. No, gaslighting is like a slow, steady campaign designed to completely dismantle your trust in your own mind. The whole point is to make you doubt what you know you saw, what you're sure you heard, and what you definitely felt. And this, right here, this is the end game. Think about it. If you can no longer trust your own judgment, who are you going to turn to? You turn to them. The manipulator becomes your only source of truth, and that gives them an incredible amount of power over you. Listen for these phrases. They are absolute hallmarks of a gaslighter. See, they don't engage with your actual concern. They attack your perception of it. Your feelings aren't valid. You're just too sensitive. Your memory isn't accurate. You never remember things right. It's a constant, subtle rewriting of your reality. All right, the next play in the book, triangulation, is a bit of a classic. This is where a manipulator turns a 2-person issue into a 3-ring circus. They bring a third person into a conflict, not to solve it, but to stir up drama and instability. At its core, this tactic is all about avoiding accountability. Instead of talking to you about a problem, they talk about you to someone else. This creates alliances, it creates division, and it lets the manipulator control the story from a safe distance without ever having to face you directly. You know, by doing this, they can easily paint you as the villain or the crazy one to other people, which starts to isolate you from your own support system. Plus, it keeps them right in the middle of all the drama, pulling the strings and feeding off the conflict they've created. This is such a classic and honestly a really painful example. The parent isn't actually trying to motivate anyone. They're creating a rivalry. The kids learn to compete for their parents' approval instead of building a strong bond with each other. And who holds all the power in that triangle? The parent. Now, for our next tactic, which can be a real mind-bender, projection. It actually starts as a normal psychological defense mechanism, but in the hands of a skilled manipulator, it becomes a seriously powerful offensive weapon. To put it really simply, they accuse you of the very things that they themselves are guilty of. It's almost like they're offloading their own shame, their own guilt, or their own bad behaviors right onto you. You basically become a mirror for all their flaws. So why on earth do they do this? Because it is an incredibly effective way to dodge all responsibility. If they can put you on the defensive, making you prove your innocence against something you didn't even do, they completely deflect any and all attention away from their own behavior. And this right here, as Dr. Stephanie Sarkis points out, is the textbook case. The unfaithful partner who is suddenly hyper-suspicious of their spouse's every move, that's a huge red flag. They create so much smoke around what you're supposedly doing that you never even get a chance to notice the fire in their own backyard. Okay, so we've opened the playbook, we've named the place, but why does that matter so much? Because giving a name to what you're experiencing is the very first step toward taking its power away. This is it. This is where knowledge becomes actual power. This chart translates those awful, confusing internal feelings into external, definable tactics. That shift from thinking, I'm going crazy, to realizing, oh, I am being gaslit, that changes everything.
And it's so true. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. You stop being a confused participant who's caught up in all the drama, and you become an informed observer who recognizes their predictable playbook. And from that position, from that awareness, you can finally start to make different choices.
So, in the end, that feeling of confusion, that gut instinct that tells you something is deeply wrong, that's not a sign of weakness. It's your internal alarm system, and it is screaming to get your attention. The most powerful thing you can do is learn to listen to it and to trust it.